Hail, Internet! It's Theron and Matt, the Dork Lords. We're here revisiting the Rankin Bass Animated Hobbit from 1977. We actually got requested to do this because we had done recaps of the Hobbit trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy film, the Peter Jackson films. And somebody said, "Hey, you guys should do the Hobbit animated." That was a while back, but here we are. Never too late to bring it back around. So excited about that. Good to see you as always, Theron.
Good to be here, baby. Yeah, nice to be here. And I'm very excited to talk about the Hobbit animated. I'm a fan. Same
here. Now, it's a little controversial. I think there are people who love it and people who don't.
Yeah.
I am definitely in the hey, I really like a lot about it category. There are some things that are like, we'll talk about what works and what doesn't. But overall, there's some very strong aspects to this production. So you just mentioned before we started talking, you actually remember seeing it for the first time. What was that experience, good sir?
Well, since it was released in '77, both you and I were very young, very, very young at the time, and I remember when it came on TV, ABC, 7 p.m., right, whatever. And I just happened to catch it. I heard, like, Hobbit, and I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, let me give you a little more backstory. Back then, malls were a big deal and stuff. And so I remember going to the mall and with a friend of mine, and there was a little store called the Tinderbox. I don't know if you remember that.
Doesn't sound familiar. Okay.
But they had, like, stuff like, it was all dark inside. They sold pipes, maybe. And they had, like, a cool-looking chess set in the window. And there was also this picture of, like, Riddles in the Dark. It showed Gollum on, like, a log paddling his way towards Bilbo. Bilbo had his back to the viewer holding out Sting. I'm like, what's that? My friend was like, hey, that's Gollum there. I'm like, what's that? But then, later, when I saw it on TV, how old were we? 6 or something like that? And I remember being scared. Like, the goblins were pretty scary. And I had no idea what was going on. But yeah, that.
So was the picture you saw from the Tinderbox from this version, or was it just another interpretation?
No, it was a different. Okay. It was a different page. It was beautiful. I could still see that picture in my head because we would go there every so often, and it was always there. It was a very nice picture.
There we go.
But a different one. But yeah, all I can remember of seeing the original was the goblin scene, and I remember being like, ugh. Oh, and I remember the spiders. There's a quote during the spiders scene that I thought was freaky, and even now, when I rewatched this for this talk, I was like, oh, that is kind of creepy.
We are no match for Sting. Anyway,
but yeah, that was my memory.
And it's a great point in that I would say it's a family film, but not necessarily meant specifically for kids. Like, kids can watch it, but I think it's because it does have a few gothic moments, a few kind of scary moments, as you say. It can appeal to more than just maybe little kids. It deals with death and dying. At the very end, Thorin is giving his deathbed speech.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that always got me as a kid, I probably saw it a little later than you. I saw it like maybe age 10 or so. I saw it in a classroom, actually. But it's when the Goblin King is gonna like devour Thorin's face.
The big mouth.
Like he opens up his mouth, his fangs. He's like, oh god, he's gonna kill him. Anyway, I remember that was kind of like, and it's not scary per se, but it's kind of creepy. Is the Riddles in the Dark scene? It's played in a haunting. There's an air of unease about the whole thing that I think is pretty cool. It's not just like shiny, happy, wee. It's got some darker elements to it that I think are pretty cool. This came out, as we mentioned, 77. It came out roughly at the same time as Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, which came out, I think, in 78.
Oh.
So they both came out around the same time, but they're obviously very different animation styles. Bakshi was using the rotoscoping idea with take live action and try to mix it with animation. And this, Rankin Bass, used the animation studio Topcraft. Topcraft was a precursor to Studio Ghibli. So the folks that did Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, this was kind of like the early days, the early precursor to that was Topcraft, and that's the studio that did this version of The Hobbit.
Yeah, the animation style, you haven't really seen it, or it's very it is unique. You don't see it anywhere else, other than Return of the King, which we won't talk about.
That's right. Which, yeah, one day we'll probably get to that as well. The Return of the King animated. I don't have as many kind things to say about it as I do.
Yeah, I mean, I can't watch. I think I watched it once or maybe twice, and I was like, let me forget it.
I saw that on TV. I remember. I was like, what? I was so excited because I saw the animation style. I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is like the Hobbit is going to be great. And I was like, what? So this is not perfect. There are some things that make you shake your head, but there are some certain positives. You and I still quote a lot of stuff from this film.
Yep.
Even today.
Several quotes.
I mean, some of them we do with a little wry smile. We're somewhat joking, but it's still, we're quoting it. I mean, it's quote. So, like, for instance, like, away, fool bird, away.
What? You speak?
You speak? I mean, we laugh, but it's cool. It's fun. That's where Bard is being talked to by the thrush, which is in the book. I mean, the thrush actually talks to Bard. He doesn't say the, what? You speak? But he does do the monologue with the black arrow. Long have I from my fathers of old. Like, that's all in the book, and so it's kind of cool that they transpose that.
Yeah, I like that. I of course. I mean, if you go back and look at our Hobbit reviews, my big thing was like anything that was added outside of the book, I'm just not a fan of. If you keep true to the book, you would have a fantastic movie. And that scene is true to the book, and I love that scene. Black Arrow, you've never failed me. I can't remember the exact line now.
Right. And comparing this to Jackson's trilogy really isn't fair. I mean, it's made for different audiences.
Yeah.
If you've been in Blockbuster Video in the 1980s, you'd have found this in the family section. Whereas, the extended version of Battle of Five Armies is rated R. But you have to there are some unavoidable comparisons, just because they're about the same book. One is 77 minutes long, one is 3 feature-length movies. That's a big difference. One thing I give credit to the animated is that it does focus on Bilbo. It pretty much stays with his point of view almost entirely. Which I think is, it's called The Hobbit, so why not stick with the guy that, the story's about. One of the things that both films do, they interpret the poetry from the book, right? That's a big part of both productions, really, but especially this one. In 77 minutes, it does several, poetry works and puts them into music. And I can think of one musical number in each of these productions, the live action and the animated, in which that version of the song is better than its counterpart. I don't know what your thoughts are on the music before I launch into a couple of thoughts, but you have some thoughts on the music, good sir?
I'm a big fan of it, even though it is in the style, like it's got the little drums in the back and stuff. But the music's very well done. It's well written and performed well. I like pretty much all of the numbers. I guess my least favorite would be the singer. What's his name?
Oh, right, Glenn Yarborough.
Yeah, I mean, his voice doesn't do anything for me really, but other than that, I think it's great.
Well, plus that main theme is, I think, one of the few, if not the only song that's not from a Tolkien. Like, they made that up for the greatest adventure. The little warble. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean,
it has some great moments. The lines during the Mirkwood when Bilbo pops out of the canopy.
Oh yeah,
that's very well done, just like it is in the movie. Of course, the movie's not there's not musical. That's probably the high point for me for his singing. I think that's a beautiful scene.
The song that is you can compare apples to apples, in which the trilogy just knocks it out of the park, is we must away ere break of day.
I have my opinions on this. I like both of them, but I do have a favorite.
The trees like torches blazed with light. I feel like Jackson's Hobbit nails it. The dwarves sing in front of the fire. It's maybe one of the best scenes in the trilogy. I mean, it tells you a lot about the dwarves. It gives you the exposition at the same time. The animated version isn't bad, but it does like a mixture of half spoken word, half sung. So I do like the "we must away at break of day." I mean, I do like that interpretation as well.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as effective as the the trees like torches blaze with light. Anyway, but
you're mixing sort of
yeah,
the dramatic with the musical, and if that's the rule, those are the rules, then I agree with you. I think the Jackson version wins. But in terms of the melody, they're very, very similar to each other. But I do like the original animated version better.
All right, very nice.
I think that's a beautiful line, and it hits that high point. Back down. Yeah, very nice.
Right. And then we usually had that lightning, a thunder clap or something at the end of it, and the lightning would show up the Lonely Mountain. So that's pretty cool. A song that is certainly better, in my opinion, in the animated version it's a classic. It's one of the ones. You and I sing it to each other all the time. It's Down to Goblin Town.
Oh yeah, definitely. The animated version crushes. Yeah.
Now, part of the reason we sing it is because there's that one misheard lyric in it. It's like, "You go, my lad, don't pull my leg."
That's what I thought he was saying when I was little. I'm like, "Don't pull my leg," instead of "Ho ho, my lad." That's way harder to understand for a little kid.
Exactly, but that aside, the fact that it does sound funny, like "Don't pull my leg." What are you talking?
He's pulling him down.
It's a catchy tune.
Yeah,
it's a catchy song.
Yeah,
it really is.
Very good.
You go, my lad, down to Goblin Town, down. Like, son.
And related, the Goblin King's voice just crushes, Jackson's Goblin King voice. I know Peter Jackson was very excited about that actor, but I'm like, man,
yeah, when the Goblin King sings,
like you said, an Oxford scholar. I mean, but it's like, what? Yeah. I didn't like the voice acting for that. The animated version, I think the voice acting all around is fantastic. If I had to pick a weakest, I mean, there's not really any weak points to it, but I think the weakest character in terms of voice would be Bilbo. But everybody else is great. I mean, he's good too, but he's
all right.
Weakest for me.
We'll talk voice real fast. I like Bilbo actually, and I do like. I mean, like Gandalf, John Huston as Gandalf, amazing.
Yeah.
Smaug, amazing.
Yeah.
Thorin, very good. and the interpretation of Gollum, this is pre-Andy Serkis. That Gollum is really cool, really creepy. He feels almost more monstrous and less human, but just really. Anyway, it's really, really well done. I would say the two things that I feel like the choices that were made that I was like, one is the
Wonder.
Kind of the non-Thorin dwarves sound kind of like little kids on helium balloons, like.
Really? I like Ballard. Look, holes, and all the holes within must be filled with his foul reek. I love that.
Yeah, well done. It should have been you.
It should have been me.
I'll say this: they didn't do the Scottish brogue stereotype of dwarves, so there you go.
Good
but
point.
The high pitched, the little.
Hits that, of course. Yeah.
The other stereotype, though, that they didn't do, which maybe they should have, because I think this is the weakest choice they made.
I'm guessing you're going to go with Thranduil, but I like it. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because they used Otto Preminger. Nothing wrong with it. He's an amazing director for one thing, but I don't have any problem with the performance per se. It's just that so he has a German accent, a heavy German accent, and so. You had a Germanic elves thing going on there, which I don't know. It's a little off-putting.
100 years.
To me, it's a little jarring. But
so you basically you prefer Lee Pace. 100 years is nothing in the blink to an elf. I'm patient.
Yeah,
I can wait.
Great point. Great point. That if you were to compare Thranduil's, no comparison, in my opinion, the live action. Yeah. Just takes it, but so anyway. But you're right. For the most part, the major characters do really, really well in the voice acting. I agree. I mean, there's some just very solid performances. To finish out with the songs, another catchy song in this one is the 15 Birds.
Yeah, that's
5
great.
Fir Trees.
Yeah.
I mean, they have great interpretation of that. But then, in my opinion, the best interpretation of one of Tolkien's poems in either version, in the production, the live action or the animated, is in the animated. It's Gollum's riddle, the bit where they take his riddle of the darkness, and then they turn it into a song.
Where it's like this
the
ethereal voice.
Like that little bit that's playing underneath.
Yeah.
They take the riddle, turn it into music. It's so haunting.
Yeah.
It gives you the atmosphere of that cave, living in that cave. It brings you into that moment. So it's not just like, oh, that's a fun interpretation and well done. It actually sets the tone of that environment.
I agree.
First rate.
Yeah, and it's
really,
starkly contrasted to any other piece of music in the film. It's very different. The ethereal female voice is very flowing and haunting, as you say.
Yeah.
I'll pay closer attention.
It's really good. I'd say my least favorite song, and it's not like, damn it, but it's like, it makes me laugh a bit, is the, like, oh, listen, the elves. And as they get to Rivendell, it's like,
where are you going? With the
down in the valley, anyway, but like, and then they keep playing it, like, while they're talking to Elrond, who's like looking at, like, they keep playing it underneath.
You've brought up a really big bugaboo of mine. Huge. Dadgummit, this made me mad.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay.
You gave me the DVD of this, like, when DVDs were popular, I was really excited to get it, because before I only had a VHS copy of it, and it was recorded off TV. Well, I happened to get to that scene. And I think that song is good. It's quite good. It's a great melody, but it does make the elves sound like little sprites and fairies and stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. Like on the box of Lucky Charms or something. Anyway, yeah.
But that remake on DVD it has lots of audio problems, and it drives me nuts. So, and you identified the biggest one. I went through this again. And I identified, 5 or 6 big audio editing problems. This is the biggest. But yeah, that scene with Elrond, when he's identifying the swords, is very good in the original. It's ruined by that goofy, happy little music. It doesn't work at all.
Because I think what they're attempting to suggest is that the elves just sing that song all the damn time.
It's a screw up. There's no doubt in my mind it's a screw up, because there's screw ups all throughout. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, how did this get past an editor's desk? It's terrible. The original's great. And here's the good news. I have the original. I've got it sitting on VHS still, and I have a machine that will copy from VHS to DVD. And one of these days, who knows when I have plenty of time, and it's going to be added to the list of you and me editing the Peter Jackson trilogy into 2 films. I'm going to fix the audio in that in the new version that probably nobody knows. Everybody is used to now. But just to let everybody know out there that the audio was used to be way, way better than it is. Yeah, there are lots of missing sound effects now. It's got problems. Yeah.
Or we could write in a scene where Elrond's like, "Hey, shut up!" You just hear the elves. All right. Anyway, this looks like Orcrist. Anyway,
Goblin Cleaver. Yeah, the way he says it's great, but it's totally ruined by the
more good voice acting. The voice actor for Elrond does a great job too.
Oh yeah, and he has another quote that I like. I always go, "They're moonlighted. See?" I often say, "See."
Hello, what's this? Anyway, at 77 minutes, I mean, this production moves, right? You got back end,
it's very compact.
To Rivendell, to the Misty Mountains, to Mirkwood. There's really no filler.
No, the transitions are done very well. It's edited excellently, and it transitions very smoothly. So, and yeah, like you say, they don't waste time on lots of things that could have been cut.
I would say the things they leave out, actually the best thing they leave out, the thing that makes it automatically gives it a letter grade better, is there's no Alfred. There's no Alfred in the animated Hobbit.
Well, that doesn't count because they invented him.
Yeah, he's not in it in the first place. No, but the 2 things that are actually from the book that they leave out, one is Beorn. They just kind of skip over that.
Yep.
Which I think it's much like, Peter Jackson left out Tom Bombadil in Lord of the Rings. It's kind of like, but it doesn't add, so screw it. And then they don't focus on the Arkenstone.
Oh yeah, it's not even mentioned.
Yeah, the Hobbit trilogy, the live action, obviously that's a huge plot point. Here, it's not played it's just like, nah, the dragons guarding the gold. That's the thing. They get the gold. The gold is what is dividing everybody. Also, more toward the book, it only has a couple of minutes where it shows the battle, and the battle's usually like little dots, like ding, 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 just because that's not the point of it, right? Bilbo doesn't participate in it. And so it's more of like the horrors of war. We see that the end result, these people have died, and it's not about forces fighting. Now, that said, I was excited when Peter Jackson was like, let's do a battle. I'm like, all right, I'm in. But I like this interpretation as well. I can see both sides of that.
Yeah, in this version, we don't even see Dane. He is mentioned, my cousin from the Iron Hills. No.
Oh, here we go.
But you never see Dane. But that's fine.
One little annoyance, just because I'm a nerd. I'm bothered that they don't say Smaug. That they always they call him Smog over and over again.
Oh.
And every time I hear him say Smog, I'm like, oh.
That's very purist. Good for you. Yeah,
I'm sure it's easier now to look that stuff up than they didn't have the internet in '77. But anyway, just have somebody do a little check, figure out how to pronounce it. But anyway,
I do really like the Smaug scene with Bilbo. I think it's paced very well. And in fact, when Desolation of Smaug came out and I went to see it, it really threw me off because it kept cutting away. Like some of the there's a great monologue from Smaug when he's like, My skin is 10-volt shields.
Oh, my breath,
claws, spears, my teeth, swords. My wings are hurricane, and that it just goes on. I mean, it's not long, but he has that in one speech. But it's all cut up in Peter Jackson's, and I kept going like, wait, stop! He doesn't say that yet. He has to say this first.
I did love the interpretation of Smaug. He almost has like a fox-like head.
Oh yeah, and I love the effect of the car headlights for his eyes. I thought that was a nice little touch. Great little detail.
Yeah.
And he's got this, and his, like we said, his voice acting was great. But it's kind of weird in a way, but it works. Like when he says, "Do you now? Do you
right.
now?"
He's almost a little rustic somehow or something. Like he's almost like country.
Country
it
Smaug.
Works.
And it's great that the thrush, at that point, he's in there, and when Bilbo says, "Old fool, there's a patch on your chest as bare as a snail out of its shell," it cuts to the thrush, who nods his head, I'm like, oh, well, very nice.
Yeah. No, it's great. And again, definitely a nod to the book, where the thrush has a huge part to play, basically. Saves the day.
Definitely prefer that. I prefer the simplistic way of getting into the mountain as opposed to the disaster that was Thorin abandoning.
I know, that was always one of your least favorite moments from the live action,
Yeah, I hated that scene. I can tolerate it now, but...
It moves along. It does what... It doesn't linger. It's got some very fun animation. It's got some interpersonal moments. The Riddles in the Dark is a beautiful scene anyway, but it's well crafted. We see a little bit of the pathos of Gollum in that moment. The last scene where Thorin is apologizing on his deathbed.
Yeah, that's very feels very Shakespearean or something, like a theatrical. I really like this scene, and this was a good scene too in the Peter Jackson's version when Bilbo escapes from Gollum and makes his way out of the caves and reunites with the dwarves.
Right.
I really like the interaction between Gandalf and Bilbo when you see Gandalf realizing, and there's a musical cue, ding, when he realizes that he's invisible.
That has the ring of truth. Yes, indeed.
It rings true. And he winks at him. Yeah, and that wink that Gandalf gives him comes back later on when he says something like, "There's more to you than you know." And then he does it a third time when he says farewell to him.
I like the different interpretations of John Huston and Ian McKellen interpreting the line, "I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me." So that's John Huston does it like a authoritative pronouncement, whereas Ian McKellen kind of does this little underselling of it. Means me, and it's kind of I like both of those. I don't really have a favorite of those. It's just interesting how two very good actors can interpret a line and make it theirs. It's kind of a cool way to see that.
And there is a very brief hint of the gold madness, or whatever. What do they call it in the Peter Jackson?
Oh,
trilogy?
right, the dragon
sickness, right? Like when they were going off to war, or Thorin's all in for war because he doesn't want to share 1 ounce of the treasure, and he's like, "Has this gold turned you mad?" or something like that. Oh, there we go. Here we go. So, nice little connection there.
The depiction of the goblins and the trolls, but maybe even more so the goblins. Love the look of them.
Yeah,
right. They're creepy, scary, but cool in a cartoonish way. I'm a big fan. Big fan. In fact, I have this joke where, like, one day when I get an obscene amount of money, Dork Lords takes off, and I have no need for any money at all. I don't care about it at all, and I can just spend money at will. I will buy up I'm going to create a chain of themed restaurants. I'm going to call it, it's going to be called Goblin Town with 2 B's, and it's going to be basically like a Hobbit-themed turkey restaurant.
Okay.
Like the logo would be a Rankin Bass goblin gnawing on a turkey leg. Come on down to Goblin Town. So there you go, Goblin Town. Now someone's going to steal it. There, I just threw out the best idea of all time. Stay for a bill bowl of Felian Keely chili. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, there you go. That's the $100 million idea, Goblin Town. Anyway, silly. But no, but that the look of those goblins, awesome. Love it.
Same thing with the spiders.
Fangs they've got. Yeah.
The spiders are very well done.
It's really, really cool.
Look for the improved audio version to come out sometime in the next 10 years. It's going to be awesome.
Woohoo! We'll get it in time for the a 100-year anniversary.
You're going to get the death sounds of the spiders. You're going to get the sounds of the battle in Lake Town and the arrows bouncing off Bard. I mean, not off Bard, but off Smaug. You're going to get the sound of the dwarf, the complaining of the dwarves in the barrels. You see them floating down, and you hear music, and you hear Bilbo say, "Quit complaining!" And they do complain in the original, but you don't hear it in this version. So
that is the Rankin Bass Animated Hobbit from 1977.
2 thumbs up.
Exactly. What? You speak? So we shall away, fool birds away. And we will talk to you guys next time. Thank you as always, Theron. Appreciate it, good sir.
Glad, buddy.
And we'll talk again soon. Bye, everybody.